I recently came across, remembered, because I'm old, 34, I'm getting old. I recently remembered that I used to have, or I have, a DeviantArt. And on that DeviantArt, there is some work, some old student work with my graduate work, my game art program work, and some of the first 3D models I made. So let's have a look at some of these and go over them and let's have some fun and laugh at them. So my first ever, I went to college and did 3D, but this is university stuff. My college stuff is long lost. I don't think we'll ever find that. But starting off the university path, I remember this was an environment in Maya, rendered in Maya. I don't know if it was Maya hardware, Maya software. And we had to make a corridor, and the corridor taught us to model, and you have to make stuff fit into the corridor, and it would teach you about using space and all that sort of stuff. And this was based off, I think this was based off like the university signs at the time. I went to the University of Derby. So yeah, it's just crazy. This is 2008. And, at the time, when you look at your old work, doesn't matter if it's a year or 10 years, you look at your stuff and you don't know what you could have done to improve it at the time, but then something changes when you look at it after a year, multiple years, and you're like, I see everything wrong with it. It's just funny though, right? It's like the scale. I thought I was cooking on these chairs. I got these little butterfly images online. I was like, boom. Then you go right onto the UV unwrap. See, you guys, you texture in Substance nowadays, right? You got it easy. Back in these days, there ain't no Substance. You got to take stuff into Photoshop, put it on a 2D texture, bake in the ambient occlusion, put it on multiply, Control S Photoshop, go back to Maya, reload texture. Let's see how it looks. There's a different world. It's funny how things change. Like the scales off. It was a first year student. It is what it is. But yeah, I was big on banners. You're going to see in a lot of this work, there's some crazy graphic design choices. So so first my environment. Next, you're going to see my first ever real-time asset using Unreal Engine 3. That's right, not 4, not 5, not Unreal Development Kit, which was that, Unreal Development Kit was like the Dragon Ball GT, right? It just kind of came in and then boom, they went back to the original naming, Unreal Engine 4, Unreal Engine 5, Unreal Engine 3, and it was a Canon. I worked on this Canon forever. 10 years, not 10 years, but lots of months. There we go. There's the Canon. So let's have a talk about this, and let's talk about the textures as well. So, when you textured in these days, you would texture this. You would look at the unwrap and put photos on it. There was no masks. Well, there were masks. You would mask in Photoshop, but there was no like smart masks or this, that. You just overlay textures, paint them in, paint them out, get the pencil brush on one pixel and add some scratches. But yeah, I will never forget the first time I rotated around this model after texturing it. I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my God. I don't know if you ever remember your first time going into a studio or your first ever 3D asset that you made if you're a student. That feeling is crazy. So if we have a look at it, I was trying to think a bit, I was like, okay, the spec map, let's make it half the size, it probably was wrong, but, I was giving it some thought. But yeah, 512, no texel density knowledge at all. I didn't even know what a seam was when I made this. I just got lucky. But yeah, you see the rope, the amount of UV it takes, although this was tileable, this rope, so I was kind of cooking, but it's way too big. It doesn't make any sense. It takes more resolution than the friggin' Canon itself. Yeah. Crazy Bump normal map, which was, if no one remembers Crazy Bump, you put a photo into this program and it generates a normal map for you. And yeah, this takes me back. But yeah, this was crazy. Again, I see loads of issues with it now, but at the time I thought I was cooking and trying to put details in the right places, small, medium, large, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, spec maps were like fake reflections that you try and get stuff shining. I can't even remember at this point. It's been so long. Well, none of this PBR stuff, which is way more cooler to work with. Yeah, the borders on this are much more responsible, unlike this. Oh, damn. See, we're moving up. Unreal Development Kit, not Unreal Engine 3, UDK, the Dragon Ball GT of Unreal Engine. Again, there's a bit of improvement here in the texturing, but I wasn't recreating the wheel, so to say. You know, it's just like, what can we do with cylinders? Obviously, it's inspired by Steam Boy or whatever, but, you know, what's going on here? You know, what's this craziness here? And logos, you know, the very typical sort of thing to do back in the day, put logos of the software on the work, which was silly, right? But it's fun because you never know you're making these sorts of silly mistakes at the time. Like I thought this sign looked cool, but it looks crazy distracting. And there's no need for the logo to be on the work. You can just put that, you know, somewhere else. But what's really going to annoy people is I didn't even notice this when I first looked at it, but the wheel hasn't got two-sided shadows on, so you see the gaps between the shadow, which is cool. Yeah. Again, I thought it probably doesn't work. You know, how do you actually steer this and not fall over? But yeah, it's interesting. No texture map for this one. And then we start to move to environments, you know. So this was meant to be seen from a movie, from Tales from Earthsea. Again, don't want anything to do with foliage. So even back in those days, I knew foliage was not the place to be. So Unreal Engine trees, lots of tileable textures, but I was guilty of doing the number one issue that all students do: overscoping. You know, my recommendations when I teach now: pick a camera angle, lock it in, keep it on that angle. Don't try and do any crazy stuff. Don't have a whole view of a city in your camera. Pick a corner of the city, a corner of the building within the city, maybe the lower floor of the building in the city, and make that look cool. But yeah, I suffered from overscope as well. And you make these mistakes and you learn from them. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff. I like this, right? There's some rubble here. It's like, where did the rubble come from, good sir? I see nothing that has been destroyed around here. So it's good stuff there. A jest because it's my own work, but lots of lessons learned in this. Again, early on, I got the grasp of tiling textures and trim sheets. I just didn't really have the eye, right? The eye came a lot later. And this, again, using logos on the work, which, you know, you don't need to do. This was like a photo semi-stylized version of something from Tales from Vesperia. Modular, and you can tell because I've got seams between the modular bits where the light bake is going wrong. I'll tell you what though, these books, I was cooking on these books. I think these books still look pretty good, you know. So I don't know. These bottles, however, we don't need to talk about those bottles because let's just look at the books. You know, these books, the door don't look too bad as well, you know. But yeah, I mean, if you were walking down here, you'd hit your head on here. Some of the flames aren't even attached. I took the storytelling thing a bit too far. Like, you know, the advice, you never have 90-degree straight angles and you always give something a bit of tilt. Oh yeah, I just took that advice and just cranked it up to 200, man. Like these posters, I don't know who was putting these posters up, but they were not in their right mind because no one puts up a poster like that. So again, at the time, I didn't even know any of this stuff. It's just, it goes to show how far you can progress if you keep going, keep putting the time in, and how you can reflect on your own work. But yeah, and then Shady Dealings, I remember putting this on Polycount, and it got quite a lot of feedback. But again, a lot of overscope, trying to focus on too much at once. The truck didn't have door handles. Yeah, modular as well. So I got the modular and tiling thing early on. I just didn't have the I just needed more on the art fundamentals, right? set dressing is very random. There's no real composition to this. It's overscoped. I should have ideally just focused on this corner, in all honesty. But no one's perfect, right? And as a student, your best way to learn is to fail. And not fail as in fail the assignment, but do things, and if it doesn't work out, you learn from it. And then Fighters Guild. So, like at the time when I made this, I remember I don't know how I can make this any better. I think I'm cooking on this, but look at it now. It's like the grass doesn't have a logical structure to it. It doesn't build up around corners and then lower down towards the middle. Could do so much more vertex painting with blends and height masks here. Scale looks potentially a bit off. The foliage doesn't read too well. The lighting over here is distracting, so this needs to be turned off to help focus the eye down here. And just lots of things, and it's stuff that you never know that you could do at the time, and stuff that eventually you learn to do. Like I said, when I was starting 3D, I had no idea what I was really doing. It took me most of college, I was awful. Didn't know what was going on. And then when I started university, I started to enjoy it a bit more. And then eventually I was able to get a job somehow at the end of all this. And then from there, it's re-education, basically. Learned so much stuff just by doing stuff. So it's that's an interesting one, right? So, but yeah, it's funny to look back at your own stuff, see how far you've come. And if you are working on stuff, look back at something you worked on last week and haven't updated. You'll get the same feeling. You'll see things that you never saw before. Look at stuff you did a year ago and see what happened from there. But yeah, this is some of my first ever bits of work when I was learning 3D and in old engines, no PBR, none of that. And it just goes to show that learning never stops when you carry on. But yeah, if you've got any old work that you want to compare against, I'd put it with your side by side with your new work and see, maybe remake the same asset. So maybe I could remake a cannon at some point and see how far we've come. But yeah, that's some old work of mine. And again, I had no natural talent. Everyone, when I joined my course, was insanely good, and it was scary. And I got low grades for like the first few semesters. And then I suddenly started to kind of get into environment art, and it gradually, there wasn't like a switch when it was like, oh, I know environment art. It slowly got bigger and bigger, the enjoyment of doing it and learning from it. And it's still going on to this day. Right now I'm doing lighting, and that stems from environment art, and I'm still learning a lot of stuff. So it's a lifelong career journey when you do this stuff, but you have to start somewhere, and it's best to try all the things and make the mistakes now and keep making mistakes and learn from them. So yeah, that's some of the earlier work. Any questions, queries, let me know. Next video, probably next week, talk about some more topology stuff. But for now, peace.